Fair use. Grief, one day at a time. 365 Meditations to Help You Heal After Loss by Alan D. Wolfett, PhD. July 1st. Anything that's human is mentionable, and anything that is mentionable can be more manageable. When we can talk about our feelings, they become less overwhelming, less upsetting, and less scary. The people we trust with that important talk can help us know that we are not alone. And that is a quote from Fred Rogers. Many of us were raised in families and cultures in which death and grief were not openly discussed. If we were hurting, we were met with unspoken and spoken rules such as suck it up, keep your chins up, and move on. But Mr. Rogers is right. Anything that's human is mentionable. And what is more human than the grief that follows loss? Grief is normal and necessary, and talking about it with others, which is perhaps the most fundamental way to mourn, makes it less overwhelming, less upsetting, and less scary. So, anytime we want to feel less overwhelmed, upset, and scared, let's remember to mention a way. The meditation reads, I will mention my grief. I will find others who are good at listening and empathizing without judgment, and I will trust them with my important talk. July 2nd. Don't assume, ask. Be kind. Tell the truth. Don't say anything you can't stand behind fully. Have integrity. Tell people how you feel. A quote from Warson Shire. If we hear, I know how you feel, one more time, we might lose it. Did you live my exact life? We want to ask people who tell us this. Did you have the same exact relationship and experience? Precisely the same loss? I don't presume to know exactly how you feel, dear reader. I know we likely have had many similar thoughts, feelings, and experiences during our grief journeys. And I appreciate the affirmation and understanding we can give each other. But to truly empathize with you on any given day, I can't assume. I must ask. And when I ask, I am hoping you will tell me the truth about how and what you are feeling. Let's have grace for all those I know how you feelers out there, because they are no doubt trying to let us know that they have empathy for us. But let's also do our part by telling the truth about how we are feeling. The meditation reads, the only way for others to know what I am thinking and feeling is for me to tell them. July 3rd. Do you have the patience to wait till your mud settles and the water is clear? Can you remain unmoving till the right action arises by itself? A quote from Lao Tzu. Our mud is still settling, that's for sure. Everything is murky and unclear. We do not like the mud and murkiness. We want out. But we're discovering if we keep flailing about, we only stir up more mud. Our frantic, mindless attempts to keep busy and get things sorted out quickly are just muddying our waters even more. What would happen if we were patiently still? If we withdraw into ourselves and try to remain unmoving and calm for a while? Maybe our waters would clear. perhaps our next right action would arise by itself. The meditation reads, when my waters are muddy, I will try stilling myself and patiently waiting for them to clear. July 4th. I am no bird, and no net ensnares me. I am a free human being with an independent will. A quote from Charlotte Bronte. Grief makes clear our interdependence with others, and it is this interdependence that gives our lives joy and meaning. And yet, the paradox is that each of us is a singular human being with an independent will and consciousness. What this means is that our grief is unique. The thoughts, feelings, and memories we harbor inside us aren't like anyone else's. It also means that our most effective methods of mourning are unique. What works for me might not work for you, and vice versa. In this way, our grief and mourning are independent. And yet, the healing of our independent grief is dependent, in part, on the support and compassion of others. Such is the mystery of love, grief, and life. The meditation reads, I am both independent and dependent in my grief. Healing requires both. July 5th. The doors we opened and close each day decide the lives we live. A quote from Flora Whitmore. A door got closed on us and we didn't like it. Sometimes we're not in charge of which doors get opened and which get closed. That can make life feel unfair and painful. But sometimes we are in charge of openings and closings. When it comes to our grief, we have the option of moving toward our thoughts and feelings. If we feel guilt or regret inside, for example, it's like we have a door labeled guilt. We can choose to approach the door and open it, or we can choose to continue to walk by it, knowing it's there and suffering the pain of it, yet avoiding examining it and working through it. In grief, we can also choose to close some doors if and when we're ready. We can distance ourselves from people who are shaming us about our natural and necessary grief. After opening a door to a particular thought or feeling, we can sometimes end up closing it behind us for good because we've reconciled it. We can also learn to close the door on cultural misconceptions about grief and mourning. The meditation reads, the grief doors I opened and closed to each day determine my path to healing. July 6th. I was never insane except upon occasion when my heart was touched. A quote from Edgar Allan Poe. Grief can feel a lot like going crazy. We find ourselves in a new reality where everything we thought was up is down and vice versa. Our thinking is jumbled. Our feelings fly all over the place. Our every routine is discombobulated. It can help to remind ourselves that we're not actually going crazy, we're grieving. Our hearts have been touched, shattered actually, by loss, and our lives have fallen to the ground in a million pieces. No wonder everything seems so disjointed and messy. We can remind ourselves that abnormal is the new normal for now, and that's normal. The meditation reads, when I feel like I'm going crazy, I can stop, breathe deeply, and remember that it's just my normal and necessary grief. July 7th. There are no shortcuts to any place worth going. A quote by Beverly Sills. Months into the most significant personal griefs I have experienced, I found myself looking around and thinking, this journey is too long and too hard. Where are the shortcuts? Of course, there are no shortcuts to healing and grief. It takes a great deal of time and lots of effort. It takes embracing and expressing all the thoughts and feelings as they come along. It takes work. The only way out is through. But reconciliation of our grief is indeed a destination worth working toward. Healing allows us to live and love fully again. The meditation reads, there are no shortcuts in grief. The only way out is through. Please share, subscribe, like, and remember that grief lives within and that you are not alone. One day at a time.